Hello, hello. This is Nancy Juetten. I am the podcast guesting success expert, the leader of the Love Your Business, Love Your Life Inner Circle, and the host of the Learn More, Earn More show that has a spectacular guest today. And what are we going to talk about? Here's my big question for you. What are the 5 client conversations every business needs for lasting growth? Do you know the answer? If you don't yet know the answer, you're in for a treat because my special guest is going to be elaborating on that. And who is she? My special guest today is Catharine O'Leary, founder of the Client Intelligence Agency. She's a powerhouse in client intelligence and business growth with over 30 years of experience working with brands like Apple and Pepsi. Catharine's known for her knack for turning client insights into strategies that drive loyalty and growth. We've crossed paths at events, and I can tell you she is the real deal. So get ready to learn how the right conversations with your clients can transform your business. Welcome, Catharine, to the Learn More, Earn More show.
Oh, thank you. And thanks to everyone for being on and listening today. And I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I am too. It was so fun to cross paths with you at the Soulful Leadership Retreat and also on the Podcasters Cruise. And you certainly have a fun way of making your points, and I want to get on with it right away. So, you have a client intelligence agency. Can you explain what client intelligence is and why it's a game changer for business growth?
Yeah, client intelligence is really understanding your ideal clients at a deeper level. So one of the things that we've been seeing in business over the last probably since post-COVID, um, is a move away from transactions. So a move away from the thought that everyone's just another sale, or another number, or maybe they're like, this amount of money or that amount of money, and they actually, we're kind of going into a path which I think is better, where people are people first, and you build relationships. Back in the 80s, it was all about relationship marketing. That's coming back in a big way. um, Even online, even with short attention spans, even with all of the marketing out there, that's a lot of email, a lot of text, a lot of video, a lot of even AI. That's all fine and great, but if you don't understand your ideal client and you're not continually asking them about how they're doing, what they need, what's the next step with you, you're going to lose them. So we have gotten into the habit of being on this hamster wheel of always going out and generating new leads and trying to get new clients in. What we forget to do is retain our current client base, which is very costly. It's 5 times more expensive to get a new lead into your business than it is to keep somebody existing in your business. So we need to take a breath, remember that people are people and that we're here to serve, and that the best way to do that is to make sure that we're connecting and that we're building those deeper relationships. And the way to do that is, in my experience, is to ask a lot of questions, listen to the answers, and utilize the information from those answers to strategically get better, with how you serve your clients, whether that's your messaging, your offers, what's next for you. Is it a mastermind? Is it, maybe it's a handoff to a JV partner where, like I don't pretend to do all the things, but I know a lot of people that do the next thing, and do it well. So who can I introduce you to that's in my inner circle that I trust you with because you are important to me? We have a relationship. Does that make sense?
Hmm. So, asking lots of questions is really important to get to the meat of the matter of how you can best serve. So, why is it that you created the CIA and how does it differ from typical business growth programs?
Yeah, the Client Intelligence Agency is really around, making sure that we are actively listening with intention. So, it's not just about the next offer or the next partnership or whatever. It's really about how do we connect the dots between what our clients are struggling and facing right now and the challenges that they're embroiled in, And then how do we best step forward to serve? And how do we learn that about them? Because survey after survey after survey, they're going to get bored. They're not going to give you the feedback. So there's lots of different interactive ways to make sure that you're gaining that client intelligence, whether that's through, market research through AI or, what's being posted on social. There's lots of ways to, kind of collect the information that your clients are out there talking about, worrying about, and wondering about. So how do we build that system for your business to make sure that you're on top of what clients are doing and what the trends are going to do, and go forward and stay ahead of your competitors and stay ahead of your clients, even just one step ahead. That's all you need.
Now, in your bio, it said that you'd worked with big companies like Apple and Pepsi, and then there's every other kind of client that's out there. Who tends to be your ideal client to benefit from what it is that you do at the CIA?
Yeah, so that tends to be anyone that's a high growth in a high growth phase of their business. They've got the lead generation really, kind of cranking through, but now it's about how do we keep them longer, right? So it's about retention and about increasing lifetime value. So, obviously you need client acquisition. That's not ever going to go away, but how can we make that more efficient? And then how can we keep people longer? Because I mean, once you've got your ideal client, like your best clients in front of you, like you want to keep them at the dinner table, right? You want to keep them coming back because it's fun to work with them.
Yeah,
And
for
now you know
sure.
their business.
So, client retention, I love what you're saying about how important it is to retain clients and how fiscally responsible it is to take good care of them too, since the cost of new acquisition is so high. Are there some ideas that you have around client retention that people can start thinking about right now to change their ways and shift their results to be more successful with regard to retention?
Well, I think first of all, you need to think about it, right? So stop. About 90% of a business's time right now typically is spent on client acquisition and only 10% on client retention. Should be the other way around, right? It should be more like maybe 20% on acquisition, 80% on retention. So, are you asking the questions around your programs? Like, do you have processes in place that are able to track, how somebody's doing throughout a course or throughout a mastermind or throughout a program? Are they hitting their goals? Are you having check-ins with them? Are you aware of any, where they're getting stuck? If everyone's getting stuck at the same place, what are you doing to make sure that you're creating or getting the help that they need, whether that's, you're creating it yourself or you're bringing in JV partners, to help them get over that one hurdle. Like there's lots of ways to incorporate AI tools and partnerships and Nancy, you and I have talked about even strategic partnerships. How do you get the help that your clients need into your community, into your kind of world, to make sure that they are getting the transformation that has been promised. So let's get them over the finish line before we're worrying about the next batch of people coming in, right? So yes, again, you still have to have client acquisition, but do you have the intelligence in place, the process, and the questions in place? Like, are you asking how it's going? Like you
Right. I
can
know
do that very quickly.
that's such a simple thing to do. And, one of the things that I've noticed with one of the high-end programs that I lead is that I'm always checking in. When we said yes to this is what we were intending to accomplish. Here we are, first quarter complete. How are we doing? What do we need to start, stop, or keep doing to make sure that you stay on path and can exceed your highest expectations? I stop and ask that question, and people are forced to consider how far they've come and whether or not they're satisfied, which opens up a nice dialogue about how we can change things to be more to their satisfaction. Seems like it's such a small thing to do, but I would much rather keep people than go get new people all the time.
Well, it is a small thing to do with a small group. It can be a little overwhelming if you've got, a bigger group in a course, say, like you've got hundreds of people or something like that. But that's where like a form can come in, or a you just have to get creative in getting people to actually fill something out. That's all. But if you have them on the line, if you have them in a Zoom call, if you have them like on a mastermind call, and you can say, okay, wait, what do we need to stop, start, and or change? That's a very corporate. That's corporate language. That's what corporate does all the time, right? The quarterly, they sit and they say what needs to stop, what needs to start, and what needs to be pivoted or changed. We don't, as entrepreneurs, we don't tend to do that, right? So if Pepsi does it, right? And if Apple does it, um, then there's value in us maybe, incorporating that in some, it doesn't have to be at that level, but in some way, shape, or form to make sure that our clients are happy and that they're actually moving forward, because a lot of what we do is accountability. And are we really holding people accountable as they go through, as opposed to you start and then you stop? And at
Right.
the stop, did you actually, get to the end? We need more checkpoints in between those two, the first and the end. And if it didn't work, like sometimes it doesn't work, but are you having a debrief? Are you having a client close call? Where like they're not going to continue with you because either they're done with you and you're handing them off to, hey, your next step is with somebody else, which is totally fine. Or hey, it's not working out, or we've run our course, and that's fine too. But what are you learning from that, and what are you able to then go back into your system and say, okay, we can change some of this, we can incorporate some of this, we can have a touch point monthly, or if it turns out that you're sending out monthly emails that says, hi, hey, how you doing, let us know, and nobody's responding to it, that's a problem, right? You
Right.
can't just say, well, I've asked and they're not responding. You got to get them to respond. So I think it's more emphasis on us as the business owners to figure out how to get that information. And
Well, so
and
to that end, like what are some of the key conversations every business needs to have to build that kind of relationship and that kind of loyalty?
Yeah, I liken this to a dinner party. So bear with me here, right? So if you're invited to a dinner party, let's call it, a 5 course dinner party. You've got cocktails, right? This is your introduction. This is where you're kind of getting to know people. You're asking the small talk, right? What's your name? What do you do? Do you have kids? Where do you live? This is not where you say, I've got the perfect product for you, just whip out your credit card, $5,000, and we're on it. Like that's not the time or the place. That's proposing marriage on the first date. It's creepy. So you've got your cocktails, you move into your appetizers. This is like your discovery phase. This is where you're getting a little deeper. Like, are we aligned, or like, can I help you? Do you need the help that I have? What are your challenges? Tell me more. Really, what you're doing here is trying to figure out who to sit next to on the entrees, right? Because you're going to be spending like 2 hours. You want to spend it with the right people, right? So if you got a year-long program, you want to make sure the right people are in the room, right? So that's really important in your appetizer round or your discovery round. Then comes the meat and potatoes, the entree. This is your onboarding. This is your startup. This is where success, is started, or you just, set it up for failure right from the beginning. So do we take the time after the sale to then get somebody warmed up, get them involved, follow along with them? Are they getting what they need to get started? If they're not, how do we, kind of kickstart them? That's, the meat and potatoes, if you will. And then, you've got a little palate cleanser, right? This is the implementation. You're kind of coming to the end. Everyone's being happy. You've been checking in, people are moving along. This is fantastic. Dinner is almost done. And then you've got dessert, and dessert is all about celebration, right? Yay, we've finished. We've got to the end of the year. We've got to the end of the course. You've gotten the transformation. Let's take a breath and let's like high five each other, right? Like that's amazing. Like we did this together. And then the kind of the bonus is, and at the end of a dinner party, everyone's leaving, everyone's giving hugs and saying, we'll get together soon. Amazing. make sure that you invite them to the next dinner party. What's the next thing you're doing? Right? Don't leave them hanging. They love you now. Right? So, like, what can we do next to play? What can we do next to, what's the next offer? What's the next? Maybe there's a retreat. Maybe there's we can hang out at Soulful Leadership Retreat. I don't know. Like, maybe there's something there but what's the next thing? How else can we continue the relationship? It's not a one and done, right?
Mm.
We need to get over the one and done mentality and figure out how we can continue to serve, even if, again, that's just introducing you to the next best person on your list. You're going to love Nancy. Nancy can take you, like, Nancy can take all of this stuff that we just did and put you on the right, the right podcast, the right, path for visibility. So, Nancy, I totally trust. So off you go to Nancy. Brilliant. That's awesome, right? You're still serving.
Well, thank you for that. And, sometimes people are in different levels of growth and creation of whatever their programs are. And I just wanted to share a little anecdote from my own arsenal, which is I was leading a very specific course about how to book yourself on podcasts consistently as a steady diet. And as we were coming to the end of the 12-week program, I had a pearl of an idea of something that I wanted to invite people to step into. And it wasn't fully baked as a cake, but I loved these people and I loved the relationship we built and I loved the relationship and the experience we had. And so as we were wrapping up this course, to your point, I said, it's been such a pleasure to work with you. And I've got a pearl of a brilliant idea that I think could allow us all to take bold steps forward. May I tell you what it is I have in mind and take the temperature to see if this is something you might like to consider? Every single person to a person said, what do you got? We can't wait to hear. And even though it wasn't fully baked, it was enough of a big idea that 75% of the people who were there said, send me a link, I'll sign up right away. I trust you. I want to continue my relationship with you. And I offer that as an example because not everybody's got their low ticket, high ticket, mastermind, whatever it is, all fully baked. But if you've got a bright idea and you love the people that are in the room, it doesn't hurt to take the courageous leap to suggest that there might be another step to take. And is everyone ready to consider that? Because in my case, it turned out to be a really nice bonanza for growth and progress and prosperity. And I'm so glad I did that, you know?
Yeah, and that's actually a best in class example of listening to your ideal clients, right? So even if you had another offer ready to go and baked, it might not have been the right one for them, right? It might, like, I mean, based on like the ideal is to co-create with your ideal clients. If you co-create with your ideal clients, you'll never wonder again whether or not the offer is right. Like, you'll know it's right because you've co-created it with them, right? So that's actually a best in class example. And you might have had, a couple of other programs ready to go and they weren't going to be the right program. So the fact of being open, even if you have other stuff in the vault, being open to listening and knowing what their next step is. And I don't mean that you have to go off and create like 150 different things. That's not what we're talking about. But even just understanding where your ideal clients are and being able to message what you've currently got so that they understand the next step is their next step. Like that's also of service to them.
Well, very well. Thank you for that comment. I appreciate it. Now, what is one thing business owners can do today to start building more meaningful client relationships, and how can your CIA help them?
Yeah, this is really all about if you're going to ask questions, you need to listen and act on the information that you're getting. So, what I hear from a lot of clients right now is that I get all these surveys or I get this information, and I feed back, like I give my feedback and nothing happens, right? There's no changes. Or I have no idea it went into a black box, or it always just goes into a black box. Like, I mean, like nobody's listening to it. You're just like, people are getting savvy to the way that email and online marketing in particular are working. You're just trying to get your email open rates up to be like, people are getting savvy to stuff like that. So if you're just asking for the sake of asking, that's wrong, right? Like that's not what clients want. If you're actually going to ask them to sit down and give you some feedback, you've got to listen to it and you've got to act on it, even if to the point of saying, I got this kind of feedback. We're going to be doing this differently. Like give them a little report, right? Give them a little heads up, or if something surprises you, like, wow, I didn't expect that feedback. Is everyone feeling this way? Like, let's talk about it, right? Those are really great conversation starters and they come from your ideal clients, right? So don't be afraid to ask, but at the same time, make sure that they understand and that your ideal clients know that you're actually listening and you're doing something with the information that you're given. I'm not saying that you have to, like, change everything that, every single person says. There is, you know, like two people is not a trend. So, take that with a grain of salt. Um, but by the same token, if there is a trend, if something's going on, like, yeah, that onboarding was really hard, that's your opportunity to increase your client retention by making that easier. Understand where the challenge was and fix it, right? But you won't know that unless you ask.
Well, here's another thing that could be, slightly obvious, I think. But, I lead a high-end mastermind and we meet every 2 weeks. And the commitment is that everybody will show up every 2 weeks unless they're stuck under heavy furniture or dealing with some kind of a life-threatening emergency. And over the last year, I've noticed that 100% of the people that are in this community show up every single time we meet. People show up every time. That must mean that they're getting value, or else they wouldn't show up. So the opposite of that is if you're leading a group program or any kind of a program and there's this many people that are enrolled, but only this many people are showing up, very obviously you've got a problem there. If people are paying, but they're not showing up, what the heck is the problem there? And so that's another thing to be noticing. It's one of those hiding in plain sight or totally obvious things. That's like, why aren't people showing up regularly to come to the program to which they have paid meaningful dollars to have a benefit? Better to find that
Yeah,
out sooner
because
versus later, right?
yeah, because dollars does not mean relationship, right? Like you could have somebody paying you monthly for a membership, and if they never show up, that's not serving them,
Right.
right? So understanding what's going to motivate them to come out or to make a decision one way or the other, right? I mean, that's really what we're talking about. Make it, helping people make a yes or no decision for themselves. And I love that about your mastermind. And I would go a step further and create a way to get some feedback on why they do show up. Because those are testimonials and those are powerful too to understand, oh, that's going well. We need to do more of that. So it's not just what can you fix, it's what can you amplify,
Yes, I
right? What
love
can you
that.
what
And
can you do more of?
I so love that. And you know what happened yesterday, which was sort of cool? I actually had to leave our mastermind 30 minutes early because I had unwittingly booked myself to two different things at the same time. And I confessed to the group that I'd made this error. And one of the people said, can we continue even without you? Because we've got more work to do. And I said, sure, I'll make you the co-host. And if you wouldn't mind sharing the replay afterwards, I look forward to tuning in. And it was seamless how beautiful it unfolded and what magic happened afterwards. And I actually think it was kind of a cool thing that I wasn't there because it gave them an opportunity to talk amongst themselves about whatever it was that they hadn't yet given voice to. And it was pretty validating to listen to that replay. Now, in another
Well,
question,
oh, sorry. That also brings up the relationship part of thing that you don't have to be the only one developing relationships. If you're building a community, right? How do you facilitate relationships within the community? Right? Because that's going to increase your client retention because people are getting value and it's not all on your shoulders, right?
I love
And
that. I love that part so much.
yeah,
And that's been the most surprising and delightful thing about stepping into leadership to run a group of this type is to see how everyone has their unique value to bring. And collectively, we're stronger than any individual within.
exactly.
Now, I want to ask you, I heard you talk about this 3 a.m. problem before.
Yep.
Can you just elaborate on that? Because that is, so many people are solving the wrong problem. And because they're solving the wrong problem, they may not be getting the right result. But what is a 3 a.m. problem and how can we use that to get in tighter relationship with the people we most want to serve?
Yeah, the 3 a.m. question or the 3 a.m. problem, it's that problem that your ideal client and only your ideal client, not everybody and their brother, just your ideal client. But you know that moment, at 3 a.m. when you're like, oh my God, did I lock the door? Or like I heard something. Did I lock the door? Why isn't the dog barking? Like what's going on? Sometimes that 3 a.m. question is, how am I gonna get the clients that I need? Or how am I gonna pay the mortgage? Or how am I gonna get to the next level? Why am I stuck? Why am I self-sabotaging? What's like why can't I get out of this rut? Like there's lots of 3 a.m. questions, but what is your ideal client like struggling with at that 3 a.m. moment that you can help with, right? That your business is made for. But understanding that 3 a.m. question, it's a very concise question. It's a very quick question. It doesn't have a lot of marketing in it. It doesn't have a lot of fluffy words. It doesn't it doesn't go by a copywriter. They wake up thinking, "Dear Lord, what am I going to do?" Or "How do I?" Or "I just wish." Right? And what's the rest of that sentence? And if you can keep it to a third grade learning level, like reading level, um, that's what that like if you're waking up from a deep sleep, you're not thinking in big words, you're not thinking in fancy language and fancy frameworks and so on. You're thinking, what's the result? Right? So if you can speak in their language when they are, this is your messaging, right? When you're talking to your ideal client about their challenge at 3 a.m., what do they wake up and what do they wake up saying in their words? If you can get that, then all of your messaging will be tightened up. It'll be attractive to your ideal clients and not necessarily anyone else. Because if somebody's not waking up with that 3 a.m. question, they're not your ideal client. And that's okay. You want to attract the best and release the rest because there's somebody else's best,
Oh, there
right?
you go again. That's so good.
Let them go, right? Let them go. So that's the 3 a.m. question that I'm talking about. And a lot of market research helps with this 3 a.m. question. We actually developed a tool within the CIA to give you a lot of insight around the 3 a.m. question and who your ideal client is. So, one of the things that we've heard over and over again is that we don't have time to do the market research. I don't know enough people personally to do the market research. I'm just going to go ahead with what I think. We make a lot of assumptions about what our ideal clients might be thinking and feeling. So we put together a tool that is free, 4 questions that you answer, and you get a 9-page report that includes the problems that they're worried about and trying to solve at 3 a.m. So you don't have to worry about actually trying to go out and figure that out. We're going to give you a link to go ahead and get that for free.
And what do you call that?
It's
Is
called
it
the
the,
Ideal Client AI Toolkit.
oh my goodness, that sounds like something that I'm going to want. So in the show notes, I'm going to put the link to go get that. And if you're watching or listening now or by replay, I want you to be sure to look at the show notes because when you get that, a lot of your problems are going to be headed off at the pass because you asked the right questions right out of the gate.
Yeah, your messaging and the cool thing is that if you put all your information in and you come out with a report and you're like, I don't like this person, I don't want to work with this person, that means that your inputs were off, right? What you put in the actual questions was off. So that's if that's the messaging you're using, you're going to attract the wrong people for you. So let's make sure that everyone's got the right messaging, has a good handle on the problems to solve, has a good handle on things like demographics and psychographics and all the, quote unquote, boring market research stuff. But let's set everybody out, so that the baseline is here, right? The baseline is high. Like you understand your ideal client, we can go from there, as opposed to a little lower being we're making a whole bunch of assumptions that everyone is exactly like me. And the problem is that with entrepreneurs, we're already on the other side of the problem,
Mm.
right? So we don't talk about it the same way. We're not in the weeds anymore, usually. So we need to back it up, and sometimes our memories aren't so good, like what it felt like in that moment. So that's why we created that, because the market research in me was just like, how do we make this easier?
Making it easy. I love that. Now, I want to ask you one other question. I'm sure you, having worked with Pepsi and um, Apple, very big corporate clients, now you're working with authors and speakers and coaches and course creators and people like that. Is there a story in recent memory of one of your CIA clients that used your tools to diagnose their challenges and emerged victorious with results that were beyond their expectation?
Well, yes, actually, one of my clients just finished going through their ideal client toolkit and created two different profiles, one for her business and one for a joint venture that they were considering. So let's see, this thing is this tool you can use multiple times. They on the joint venture side, they were going down a path, and they realized that that path was going to take them to a place that they didn't want to go. They knew very well that they didn't want to go down to that kind of an ideal client. So they had to take a step back. So it probably saved them about 6 to 8 months, and a lot of money actually creating offers that would have brought in clients, but they would have been the wrong clients and they would have been unhappy. So she was thrilled to death because, having a whole stable full of clients that you're not really all that having fun with and all that thrilled to get up in the morning and serve, that's that's a hard life that you've created for yourself. So let's not do that.
Amen. Amen to that. I think that there are so many different models that we can pursue in business and so many different approaches to serve clients. And there's lots and lots of gurus that are pontificating about your 6 and 7 and 8-figure outcomes that you can welcome when you follow the yellow brick road. I think one of the most important questions any one of us can ask is that a road I want to travel? Is that work I want to do? And are those the people for whom I want to deliver the value? Because if you can't answer yes to each of those questions, you're going to be setting yourself up for a journey that will not take you to a happiness quotient that would be celebratory, or even a bottom line result that you can feel good about.
Or even deliver on. Like you might like end up like, I can't do this. Like if you've ever fired a client, and I've done that both in corporate and on my own business. If you've ever fired a client because it's just like there is not enough money in the world to that will make this work. You don't want to get to that point. You also don't want to create golden handcuffs. What if you create something that like is 7 or 8 figures and you hate it? That's not that's not success in
I
in
couldn't
my
agree
mind.
more. I had a CPA a million years ago, and I remember this so vividly. I had a very prestigious client who was very, very well known, and it was on its face a great opportunity for me to do great work for someone that I was proud to work with. But her marketing director was someone who was really challenging for me.
Yeah.
And I found myself not having any fun doing it. And I was talking to my CPA about it, and he just looked me right in the eye and he said, Nancy, the reason you hung out your shingle in the first place is because you want to have fun and make money, and one without the other isn't good enough. So if this isn't fun, despite the money, you have to do yourself a favor and release this client from your roles. And it was like I was asking for permission. Can I have permission
Yeah.
to let this person go? Because why would I let such a prestigious client go? I was miserable. And I remember so vividly to this day speaking to the client. And I said, it's been an honor to do this work. And I feel very proud of the results that we've brought forth so far. And I'm going to call it a day and allow you to find a new person to handle it. You're leaving us? Why? And I said, it just doesn't feel like a fit, but thank you so much. And he was like looking at the phone like it had three heads, but it was like, I needed to go. I
Well,
needed
you
to
needed
go.
to release them so they could find their best, right? So, and then that frees up how much room? Like so much more room for you to attract the right people in, right? We get so fixated on if I don't get this client, I'm not going to make the mortgage. That's an energy of desperation, and you're going to attract the kind of energy vampires, as a friend of mine calls them. Um, and there's not enough, like you do get to a point where there's just not enough money in the world. And even if you're not making the bills, like there's still not enough money in the world. And I don't want anyone to get to that point because that's not a fun point to be in.
So in order to avoid that, they are going to want to download this AI toolkit, and we'll put the link to that in the show notes so you can run and not walk to get that. And then keep entering the information in until you get an answer that has you lit up and excited about the path forward. Because when that's in place, there isn't anything you can't do.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's your first step. That's your offers, your messaging, where to put your messaging. Like it's the start of everything. And then we can really put like gas on the fire and get going.
Love that. Well, is there anything more you want to add before we wrap up for today?
Just, have some fun. I mean, Nancy and I were just on a fabulous, cruise, and we had fun. And we did a little bit of business too. So however that looks for you, have some fun. But just make sure you're setting yourself up for success. And the best way to do that is to make sure that you're attracting, the right people, and building those relationships so that you're not on a hamster wheel.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you, Catherine, for being my guest today. And for those who are watching, I would be so grateful if you would hit that subscribe button so that you can be the first to benefit from the next Learn More, Earn More expert interview that I bring forth to support you as you learn more to earn more and grow your business and love your life. So with that, I say thank you for joining us today, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye for now.